looking forward, I see that we did do it.
Okay. So Chofei basically goes along with 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
והנה מעט יש להבין בפרט עניין הספיר סטאצילוס, דהיינו ברידוס הער מחיצוניוס נהי דאריך אנפין בעבר. לפעמים אמר דעבור מלביש מזרויס דאריך אנפין, so which seems to be higher than נהי, which means Chassidic Gvura. Umar she'amar reish l'malka b'chol gestakan, this thing what it says that the reish l'malka is enclosed in Chassidic Gvura, that's not what about this. Hanu p'chinat reish d'arich anpin, what I was talking in the last chapter, is talking b'chol d'atik yamin, chesed d'atik yamin b'chol gol. So now, v'lif'omen amar da'aba yainik mimazal lached v'naitzer v'ima mimazal yad gimel v'naki. It means it receives some chabad of arich. So it's, in some places it says that Chabad receives from Nehi of Arich, in some places it says it from Hagas of Arich, in some places it says from Chabad of Arich.
Right.
So what's the story? Achini yadua b'inyan koyach ma da'chochma me'aynti matzah v'phinas ein v'abina nikos yesh v'er v'shefa de'ein d'chochma me'er v'nimshach v'phinas hasoga d'bina shezeo me'ein l'yesh. And this is all a very short recap of what it says in chapter 1 and 2. V'nikrin train rein d'lomit pashin chulu, that they always work together. The Chadashayin, they are there like one. Chulu. V'hu p'chinas nakuda d'chochma shemavri kebarak milamayla min ha-sechel. B'loshna ilam havana means chochma. In other words, what is usually called understanding, that's wisdom, that's chochma.
Right.
In other words, the understanding means to actually understand the thing. Like when somebody understands it, oh, I see that. I see what it means now.
Right.
I see what you're trying to get at. So to see it, that's chokhmah.
Right.
Whereas bina doesn't mean to understand, it means to analyze and to grasp in a way of a something, not to actually just see it in a way of an ain. Whereas understanding means you finally understand it and you don't need an explanation anymore. It's not an explanation.
Right.
It's higher than an explanation. So this nakuda de chokhmah shemavrik tabarak milamayla min ha-seichel, that's actually yasoid of chokhmah actually. The havraka tabarak, that's already the yesh of the chokhmah.
Right.
Means it's already a mavrik tabarak that's there. It's not really grasped, it's just a havraka. If you don't grasp it with a bina right then, it'll disappear, because like a barak disappears.
Right.
But that's really a Sayyid Abba that he's talking about. But it comes from a Koyach HaMaskil. And this Koyach HaMaskil is called Chokhmah Simah Da'arich. And this is all covered in chapters 1 and 2. The Nikra Chokhmah Ne'lama, like, the aquifer.
Right.
So Makar Moitze Kol Sechel Me'ein. That's the actual Makar where each Sechel comes from the Ein. The Nikra Maskil Kiyadua. It's called the actual maskil, what gives the haskalas. The Hainu Sha'amar, the Abba Yoinik Mazlaches, the Neitzer, Oisiyat Tzinor. The Tzinor Dak. Tach Pinatzara is the Mazlaches. It's like a narrow tube that a little bit of water from the aquifer comes, and that's the same type of muscle, like the ara mechalchala. What is it? Chalchala mechalchala.
Yeah, ara chalchula mechalchala.
Chalchula mechalchala. Right. That in other words, that the revealed chokhmah, which is the mayan, is where tipin come out of the ground. That's what's called the mayan. That's the chokhmah gluya, and that is connected by a narrow vein. In other words, the same thing like a tube.
Right.
to the aquifer, and a little tiny bit comes out through it from the vast reserves that are in the Moscow. And these Sa'aras, the reason it's called Sa'aras, because it is Prinat Hu, Prinat Tameach Shebamaskil. And now, in this maskil is the Indian of Smicha. La Smiach Me'ein Kol Mini Askolas. The same like a tree grows pears and peaches and stuff. These Askolas is like the Tameach in the maskil. Vayinika Prinat Agdola is the Meich in the Abba. And it's the same like a hair is like a plant in a way. It's called Sameach Shabachai. Its mamish has a root and everything, and the root has to get nourishment.
Right.
You know. The
Right.
root gets the anika. There's a little well down there that it gets the anika from.
Right.
And this yanika is the Hagdolas Meich and the Abba. It gets the yanika from the end of the thing, and then it grows a new idea. The Hagdolas Meich and the Ima, Hainu Mazli is Gimel V'Naki. So the Ima also has a root in the Koyach HaMaskal. It's called Koyach HaMaskal, but really it should be called two Koyachas, Koyach HaMaskal and Koyach HaMavin.
Right.
Who base Mazolet, and that's that what it is basically is Chochma and Bina of Arich. Who base Mazolet Alal, Mazla Elyon, and Mazla Tachtain, Hen Shorsha Amoich in the Avah. The who, and this means that the Koyach HaMaskal Atzmo Yesh Shevish Agdolas Moyach HaAvana Min Chochma, the Shevish Agdolas Moyach HaTfisa VeHaSoga, that's Bina. Shehen Nikroin Moyach Abba Moyach Ima Kiyadua. וכמו שבחינס מויח בינה שהוא מויח התפיסה והסוגה מקבל מבחינס האין למויח החוכמה, כך בשוישם בייחוד בית מזולת דרך אנפין ונייצה ונקה כולו, it's also like that. That Bina of Arich receives from Chochma of Arich. And the source is also like that.
Right.
ידוע, דגם שם הזולת נקרא סערש, שנפקוס ויועצים רק מבחינת מיצרי מייחסמה דארך אנפין, אף על שורשון מעצמוס הגולגולתו של המיילה מגוף פנימיס המייחסמה. Like hair. That even the hair are yoinik from there's a well with shuman in it, with like oily stuff in it, that the hair grows from.
Right.
A nutrient. That nutrient comes actually from the brain, not from the bone.
Right.
So even though the yoinik from the maskil of the brain, but nonetheless they're rooted in the skull.
Right.
So what he's saying that even though these mazolis that the Chochma and Bina get from are receiving from Meichas Timada Arich, but really they have a shoyvesh which is higher than the goof of the Pnimis of Meichas Timada, the actual goof of the maskil.
Right.
And that's why they broke through and they come out in a way of maestros, like that's why they're called hair.
Right.
It's like leftovers.
Right.
It's not even like part of the body anymore. And you can cut them and you don't feel nothing. It's like junk. Commercial, Bekia, Sagid, Sasam, Beyaser. And these are various mashalim, like a...
Wait a minute, the commercial of what?
Hagid.
It says here a nod.
Oh, Hanoid. Okay, it can be Hanoid also. Hanoid, what a Hanoid is that if you have a bottle under pressure.
Right.
It's also a muscle of a gid of a Mayan. You know, when you I saw it before in Chassidus. It's it says the eretz has gidim. You know, like veins.
Yeah.
If you plug up a Mayan, the pressure will build up, and if once it breaks through, it'll push it extra.
Right.
So, like if you go and if you have
Pressure cooker.
huh?
Like
Yeah,
a pressure cooker.
like if you have your tap on, your water tap, you stick your finger in it.
Right.
It
Makes the pressure stronger even.
It makes it come out like a spritz.
Right.
So the steamer makes it stronger. So in other words, the fact that it has to go through the bone, it makes it a bigger thing than the original stuff. And now is the thing of Neivlis, that when there's a very strong power in the Chokhmah, that's when the Neivlis go down. That the shirish of the Neivlis is higher than the actual body of the Araseichel. Says that the Torah is just Neivlis. Neivlis is like, the leaves that fall off the tree. In other words, just rotten leaves.
Right.
And it says that the Chokhmah is just the stuff that fell off.
Right.
So it said the stuff that falls off, same thing. This is also the Indian when you overfill your cup.
Right.
The stuff that means that some of it spills over shows that the cup is overfull.
Right. Kosira vaya.
Yeah, the stuff that falls over shows the stuff that is overfull.
Right.
And a good marshal on that is Farbrengen. You know, if you come to a Farbrengen after the Farbrengen,
right,
and you see, there's a few bottles of soda on the table, and there's some leftovers on the table and stuff like that. So you say, I didn't miss much.
Mm-hmm.
But if you come to Farbrengen and there's spaghetti on the walls, and there's all kinds of stuff, the more worse it is on the floor, the better the Farbrengen was. Like if you see throw up on the floor,
right,
and if you see people on the floor, you say, wow, I really missed it, man. That was some Farbrengen they had here.
Right.
So the more worse stuff there is on the floor, the more it means was the strength of the Farbrengen.
Right.
You say, wow, that was some party. And it's not got the stuff that falls off. And the leftovers and the rotten stuff that shows you what a great party it was. If it's just a little bit, if everything is still on the table and nothing fell down, it shows that it was not a big, powerful party.
Right.
And it's not got the stuff. If it's on the floor, then it was some party. If it's even on the walls, then you really know it was some party.
Right.
And the more mushed up it is and the more rotten it is, the better it shows you what the party was.
Right.
And that shows you what a great party it was. So what that means is that not only is the mazolis can be all the way up to Golgotha. In other words, that the Chokhmah can come not just from the Chokhmah Sima of Arik, where there's already divisions of the lines to the right and left, but it can come mamish from Golgotha itself. And really, it can come from even higher.
Right.
That it shows the fact that the stuff fell over shows on not just the etzem harotzim, but on the great tainuk. So That basically that's what's involved in, like we said before, that in the Golgotha is Melubash Chesed of Atik. So Chesed of Atik shows like on a party. And the more novelous it shows on the Etzem HaTainug, means even higher than Chesed of Atik.
Right.
Because Chesed of Atik, the spreading out comes from the Etzem HaTainug. So really the Mazolas can go even higher than Arich, even higher than the Golgotha. It really can be bringing down. And that's why it says, in some places, it says, Pnimis Abba, Pnimis Atik. And we can go all the way to where you see actually Bachram passed out under the table. It means that it went all the way up to Radlo.
Right.
You know. So this level is talking about not normal seichel, but where new things are coming into the seichel. A new light is coming into the seichel.
Right.
So it says this new light is coming into the seichel is not really just chachma, and it's not really coming even from the chachma simah. It's not even really coming just from the koyach hamaskil. It's really coming. There's a hitgabrus on the koyach hamaskil.
Right.
And
that's why you have the excess that is the novelous.
There's the novelous, and these novelous are the new ideas that are coming into Chachma and Bina.
Right.
The novelous. And this is not a very common thing, by the way. Even like the stuff that you get by inventors, you know.
Right.
It's really not this level. If you look back in chapters 1 and 2, you'll see that even what comes by most inventors is not really a new light into the Chachma, but it's Chachma of Bina.
Right.
And even if you say like, oh, but what about a whole new invention like the airplane? The airplane was not really a whole new invention.
Right.
It was really Chachma of Bina. It was a very big Chachma of Bina, because they made like a whole new mode of transportation, but it's still a mode of transportation. That's why you saw the guys who did it were like the Wright brothers. They were already into
transportation.
Not just transportation, and they use stuff, mechanics and machinery and stuff like that.
Right.
Whereas this is talking about a totally brand new idea that is not just brand new in terms of
it's not only an innovation of what already was, but it's brand new.
Yeah, but it's not just that. It means it's not even just an innovation at all.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's not even an innovation like a fantastic invention. Because all inventions is still, like a physical invention, is still something to do with where you are.
Right.
And this level here really you only get by learning Chassidus, where it's a total innovation. It says that really there's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
This is talking about something actually new. Under the sun, even from you go from the caveman to us, it's really nothing really new. It's just putting it together in a new way. It's not a real new thing. This is talking about a real mamish chiddush. Means it's the stuff that's real, like he says, it's coming from above the sun, not from under the sun.
Right.
Like, remember with the tour of the Kardunita and stuff like that?
Right.
So this is talking about really this type of stuff comes only from this kind of Hitbonenut like we're doing now. That's
the Torah de Cardinuta.
Torah Cardinuta. So this stuff is coming really, it's not just most inventions and stuff like that. It's not just inventive stuff like algebra and all that business, you know. It's
right.
Sort of like this, but it's not really like this. It wasn't really from the actual like this, you know. Although it has a element it does have an element of coming from the mazolas. But the real thing of the thing of the mazolas that reaches higher than Arich altogether, especially one that reaches all the way up to Atik. Remember that Atik is not really part of the world.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Atik is not really part of the world, and even Golgotha, even though it's like you call it, it's already the Shoirish and Etzolim, but it's just a Shoirish. It's not Mamish. There's no divisions yet over there.
Right.
You know, so really this level here is not really exactly what you call a common level. And this is a level of a real human being. And like it says in many places, if there's no Hitbonenut, it's not a human being.
Right.
Marsh never Makamah, Vakachutam. Miles Inyan Shavri should gimel Midas Rachmim, Shanikrem Bishem Yud Gimel Tikuna Dikna, Shayet Vimaisha Merchastima. All the Gimel Midas Rachmim Tikuna Dikna come from the Maisre Merchastima, which goes through the Golgotha. Marsh Nema, Vayavar Havaya Alpanov, the Debisha went past the Snimius, Vayikra Havaya Havaya. In other words, you're talking Havaya Havaya. If it's not Havaya Havaya, it's not really this kind of seichel at all.
Right.
If it's something to do with the physical world, it's Havaya Havaya Kol Racham Achanon. It's all, it's Yud Gimel Midas HaRachmim. It has to do with, it has to be something with Elakus, with Snimius Elakus. Nikra Tam v'Chochma K'mus al-Rotzen Anelam. V'Nikra Gam Ken Sechel Anelam Mikol Raya, Neplas Chochma, this Merchas Tima'a. L'pi Zeh, K'She'amar Da'er Abba Yenik Mimazal Chulu, Arei Zeh L'mayla Mechochma Tima'a Atma. It's really, even though it's coming through Chochma Tima'a, it's from the Koyach HaMaskil, but really it means he's getting through the Koyach HaMaskil, but from higher than Koyach HaMaskil.
Right.
So Ze'ama Hakol Toloi B'Mazel. Everything depends on Mazel. Afilu Sefer Torah B'Heichel. Even the Sefer Torah B'Heichel means Chochma and Bina, She'u B'chinet Yichud Ava. That all the Yichudim depend on Yichud Ava. The real Yichud Ava has to have this thing happen. In other words, there's no real Yichud Ava, even though they're together, but that's not actual Yichud. To actually give birth to a new thing. The mata nekuvda the chochma beichol bina me'ein leyesh kanal. Shezeu sefer v'sipur. The chochma is called a sefer, and bina is called a sipur. In other words, the sefer is the whole book, like the name of the book. You know, like
right.
The Lord of the Rings. It's the whole idea of the whole thing. You know. The sipur is the details.
Right.
And the sefer, the
actual narrative
sipur,
of it.
huh?
The narrative
means the details. The book and the narrative, right. And it says that there's three things really. It says sefer, v'sipur, v'sefer. There's a story writer.
Right.
So this sefer, v'sipur comes from the sefer, which is really much higher than both of them put together. Shenikra Sefer Torah B'Heichel Kiyadua, V'zeu L'mala Harbe, now he's coming to the second level. This level is much, much higher than Masha Arma Da'aba V'Ima Malbish L'Zroes Arach Anpin. And Mekol Shekem M'chinas Nehid Arach Anpin.
Right.
This is much higher than these next two levels. This is much, much higher. The other two levels are sort of, even though the Zroyas is much higher than Nehi, but in a way, they're still both in some kind of an error for each other.
Right.
It's just a Pnimius Hamidus and Chitzonius Hamidus. This one is totally Shelo Be'erach. Shem Lubashim Be'ava, Nehi Shem Lubashim Be'ava, Liyos Le'yadua Shepchinas Zayit Tachtonis Arach Anpin, Hainu Rak Pchinas Hamidus Chagas Chulu, Shnikro Yad HaGdola V'Yad HaChazak Chulu, the Nikra Gamkin Bezoyar B'Shem Turi Chashucha. Oh, we didn't do Torah Hashucha. Now we're doing Torah Hashucha. I thought we did it before. And this is called the Mountains of Darkness.
Right.
Okay, and the thing is that the first level is really even higher than that.
Right.
It's even higher than Torah Hashucha. The second level is Torah Hashucha, which is the Pnimius Amidos, means Chesed and Gvura of Arif. Yadu b'mayim the Haya Yalta Azlas LaTorah Hashucha. This gazelle, Malchus, goes up to the dark mountain. Misham Achas Mezayna, that's where she gets her food. Shazel Pchinas Aliyas HaMalchus B'Chagas Darech Anpin. That's on Rosh Hashanah. וכמו שנאמר, ותרם הטבע חול בחודש הזין שהוא ראש השנה, שואל המלכוס בהרי עררה, טורי קרדוניטה, the dark mountains.
Right.
It sounds really like something out of Lord of the Rings, huh?
Yeah.
The dark mountains. כמו הרי magvoyim, why they call dark mountains, is like high mountains, that they're so high, she'ein or HaShem ishmeir aleim, they're higher than the sun.
Right.
That they're higher than the Chokhmah altogether. And remember, this all ties in to... Hold on for a minute. Hello? Remember what it says in chapter 1?
Yeah.
That this will be like in the days of the Mabul. When Mashiach comes, will be like in the days of the Mabul.
All the mountains will be...
That all the mountains will be covered up. Not only the light mountains, but even the dark mountains.
Right. Even the Torah Hashucha.
Even the Torah Hashucha. Why? Because the thing will come from the level of the Mazolis.
Right.
And also the Mazolis is called the Gidim.
Right.
You know the Nifko, whatever it's called, what it says over there. You know that the Arubas Hashemayim is the tubes, and the Gidim of the earth is the tubes of the Mazolis, where it comes into the Chokhmah Gluyah and the Chokhmah Nistara.
Right.
Those will open up, and it will come not just like a little flow, but a big flow. And it will be from that level. So it shows you that that level is talking about, it'll cover up all the mountains.
Right.
And it's not talking about normal wisdom at all. It's talking about the kind of wisdom at the time of Mashiach. And those days there will be nothing but Dasas Havaya. It's talking about a thing of Dasas Havaya Dafka.
Right.
That level is talking about Dafka Chassidus, Dafka this type of Chassidus like we're learning over here. So the Torah Hashucha and the Midah Sheberotzen is called Torah Hashucha, and the Midah Shemitzad HaSeichel V'Tam Nikran Torah N'Hoira.
Okay, 1 second.
the dark mountains and the light mountains. And remember, by the way, like the dark mountain sounds like evil.
No, actually it's good.
Huh?
Actually, it's good.
No, it's actually that is evil.
Yeah, well, but
the dark mountains is evil. It is evil.
We don't see the good of it now. Like all the klalos in the Torah are actually good.
Yeah, but the dark mountains is oilam hatoilu.
Right.
It's the midos of the rotzen.
Right.
It's the midos of the rotzen. If they don't go through and become lit up by the seichel, they're evil. That's what the whole thing. What evil is.
Right.
Where he lets the midos of his rotzen take over.
Right.
Without the seichel being able to do anything about it.
Right. Well, that's a tov ma'od.
That's a tov ma'od. Yeah, but that's when it gets lit up actually from this even higher level, really. Right. But really, the way it is now, these dark mountains, if it's just the dark mountains take over, that's the whole inyan of evil. That's the whole inyan of teichel.
Right.
The chokhmah nikra oyer. In other words, the seichel lights up on them. Aval amida sheberotzen nikran tur de chashuch. Amida shebehelam harotzen. The shorsh mebchinas chokhmah siman now. Shehu anikrat alumas chokhmah. Inyan tam komus l'rotzen. Shenechlok umena beis kovim chesed gvura sheberotzen chulu. Uze amar da'avo malbishn l'zroya es chesed gvura de'arach anpin. Moshe Anaroyim Shemachames Midas HaChesed V'Ava Rabba Sheberotzen Nimtza Shevesh L'Sechel V'Tam L'Schus V'L'Chesed Kmo HaSheichad Ya'aver Chulu Shemachames HaSheichad Sheyesh Lo Ava Berotzen Mam Titayno Umate Koyach Sichloi Mechoyv L'Schus. So you notice he's saying here that this second level, which is higher than the normal level, can actually be a bad thing. That's exactly what he's saying here. That it's ma'aver, it blinds him. And what this is when somebody is really into something.
Right.
When somebody's really, really into something. Like people are really into whatever. Like fanatical.
Right.
Whatever. I mean, the whales or
these crazy communists, for it.
Communists or the crazy terrorists. Like you saw, these crazy terrorists, they came up with a real smart thing, So there's a good thing about it, but there's also a problem with it.
Right.
The good thing about it is that the seichel that comes from the pnimius amidus, means from chesed and gvura of arich, will be bigger sichlium.
Right.
And that's why also in somebody who's really into like geology or any science will come up with these big these big inventions, what I'm talking about?
Right.
So it could be a good thing also. Like, in other words, somebody who's totally, totally into the thing, where it's the actual chesed and gvura, like he's totally in love with something or totally hates something.
Right.
Like, for instance, in war, they're real big conquerors, that came up with all of these, like Hannibal or whatever, that came up with these fantastic new tachsisei milchama and stuff like that,
Right.
And also, like when somebody is super, like the Maccabees or something like that, when they're really pushed to the wall.
Right.
And they really, really, it's the essence of their midos. It's the essence of the midos of their rotzen. The Ava Rabbah and the Sina Rabbah. So when somebody really, really hates, he comes up with bigger sichlium.
Right.
Or really, really loves, so he comes up with bigger sichlium. However, the problem is it can totally blind you. Like you see by these terrorists, for instance.
Right.
And also you see by the scientists. So from one side they're coming up with big sichliim, but from other side it sort of seems to blind their sight also.
Right.
That they
have a blind spot.
They have a blind spot because they so much want it to be like that they can't let go of some of these things, like, evolution or whatever,
Right.
So it has a good side and it has a bad side, and that's because it's the Tour de Cardonita. I mean, it can be very dark because the seichel is not shining on it, even though it can bring much bigger sichliim than Nehi.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I don't know if this is Rabbi Yossi, I think. Shalachach Kakala the Peri. He took a little thing of fruit from somebody, and
from his
neighbor,
farmer.
Yeah, and what happened later? He came up with a wrong judgment or something. I can't remember what the whole story was. It says, "Iki toyin hachi," for a little piece of fruit I made. No. He told him what to toyin or something. I don't know what it is, but it.
I
think he disqualified himself, but he was there at the trial, and he said, "Oh, he should have said like this."
Right. He should have said like this. Right. Why did this come? Because there was a sheikhat, and that's just from a little piece of fruit, and from the pnimius amidas of arich is like a total sheikhat. So from one side it can bring fantastic sichlim up, but from the other side it can really blind a person. Nimta amidas chesed gvura malbishim melubashim bepnimius dava, u'pchinas avo malbishin eisen mibachutz. So the problem here is that it really goes according to what he wants. And unless it's a person with a very, very strong seichel, what's going to happen here is that the Ratzon will overpower the seichel. You notice he's saying it's almost for sure, according to what he's saying, it's almost for sure that the Ratzon will overpower the seichel. Even though big sichlim are coming out of this. Because what it is, it's really the Ratzon is inside, and the Avo is just a lavush for the Ratzon. It's almost like it's not a thing by itself, it's just a lavush. That's why it says Malbishin. The other one is Yeridas Ha'or. It's Yeridas Ha'or. Here it's not just Yeridas Ha'or, it's Mamish Malbishin. The Ratzon is right inside of it.
Right.
And this is in politics. You notice in politics that the people are really into things. They come up with big sichlim. They'll be able to come up with brilliant debates.
Right.
And brilliant books and ideas like that will look fantastically convincing. So the question is, if the midos of the Ratzon can do that, so what about the higher level, what we talked about before?
Right.
That's the etzema. That's the Golgotha.
Right.
That's the etzema Ratzon. So why aren't we making a warning over there?
Right.
This is no, because that's the Pnimius HaSeichel.
Right.
That's the Chochmas Timah, and also even higher, going all the way into the Pnimius HaSeichel. That's higher than the Ratzon itself. And from the Yud Gimel Midas HaRachman, they can actually change the Ratzon even And there it's a matter of a connection to Elokus. It can only be good. It's not like the Olam HaToyu. The thing in Olam HaToyu, this fanatical Ratzon can become disconnected from Elokus. So this, but like you said, really it can be very good. It can be Toiv Ma'oid if it's connected to Elokus.
Right.
But the level above it can't be disconnected from Elokus because it is Elokus.
Right.
So there is no chashash that is going to go wrong. Just over here, Davka, it can go wrong. And this is the Indian of Olam HaToivu. Bishna Tamichuz, כמו שנאמר, אני בינה לי גבורה, Baruch Anpin. Inside of me is Gvura Baruch Anpin. כמו שמבואר בעת חיים ודל המאבן. This is the second level. So we read it, המדרגה 8, ein meichen, the chub, that Tzilus mekablam rak mefchinet netzach v'hei Baruch Anpin. And you notice here, it doesn't say halbasha, it says kibul. They receive some light, and then they're able to still be themselves and process it. It's not a tlapshus. And this is the normal intellectual process. In other words, it's not the actual chesed and gvura coming through with absolutely no symptom, but rather that is coming through Netzach HaHaid. Shenikrein Moznet Tzedek Mikol Mokum. Now he's telling you on Netzach HaHaid in every place, not just in this place, in any place where it says Netzach HaHaid, it's called Moznet Tzedek. What does it mean, Moznet Tzedek? Moznet Tzedek means a weight of how much to give. Netzach means to give out, and Nitzuach means to go into the other guy's property. And Hoid means to hold back, means to only give a Hoidah, not to tell him the actual thing, but he should only be Moedeh. So Netzach and Hoid is a shikul of how much to put through. It's not the actual Ratzin, but then from the Ratzin, it goes through Netzach and Hoid. And then there comes a little bit of light into the seichel of what he wants to think about.
Right.
And according to that, then he'll think. Which that's the normal thing is that the Ratzin does not overpower the seichel. He knows what he wants. And he knows, like, how much he wants to get into it. Like, does he really want to get into it? Does he want to get a little bit into it? Means Netzach and Hoid, you know.
Right.
But not that the Ratzin totally overpowers the Seichel. In other words, the guy's a total fanatic, and he can't think of nothing else. Although, like we said before, that when he's a total fanatic and he can't think of nothing else, that means he's going to be thinking really, really hard. The only problem there is that the seichel is overpowered by the Ratzin. Gam lamota midei shemitzad ha-seichel rak v'midei sheberatzin shnikra arichos v'anpin hem bilti mugbolim. Ma ha-ratzin atzma shehu bilti mugbol. Al ken gam b'chinas netzach v'heid and b'chinas bilti mugbol k'yedua. Means in the Ratzin, even a little bit of Ratzin is coming through to the Seichel. He doesn't want to just open up a little fruit stand.
Right.
He wants to have a worldwide chain of supermarkets.
Right.
It's just that when it comes through Netzach and Hoid, it's already coming in a way that the Seichel can think of it and say, well, but I got to start with a little fruit stand.
Right.
But if the ambition wasn't there at all, then the Seichel would have said, well, I got to start with a little fruit stand. But the ambition wasn't there at all, then the Seichel would have said, well, but I got to start with a little fruit stand. Right. But if the ambition wasn't there at all, then the Seichel would have said, well, but I got to start with a little fruit stand. In other words, what does Ratzon have to do with Seichel? Two different things. If the ambition wasn't there at all, he wouldn't think about it. You see this in business, you see it in everything else. If he didn't want it, he wouldn't think about it.
Right.
But in the actual Ratzon, even in the Netzach and Hoy, that you say that's really a Hakbolah of Chesed and Gvura already. Because, yeah, compared to the Chesed and Gvura of Arich, it's a Hakbolah, but really even Netzach and Hoy is Hakbolah, is Bilti Mugbal, Kedua. It's still Arich. Yadua the Pirush Zecher Rav Tufcha, who Prinat Yisayid the Arich Antin. Rav Tufcha. It's only a Zecher, but it's a Rav Tufcha. They can, but Tufcha HaGodl. You know, Toiv, it says Toiv is Tzadik is Toiv, and Tzadik is Yisoid, right?
Right.
Ukai Gav, no? They can, Imigal HaToiv, a Rav Toiv, Lebed Yisrael, Kai Gav. No, Masha Enken, Bechinat Yisoid Zah, Shehu Pchinas Midah Shenoil de Mebina, Hu Pchinas HaKatnas V'yesa, because after the Chochman Bina, when he thinks about it and analyzes the situation, so then it comes very little already. It's just a fruit stand. He says, that's the most I can put together. Or like a house. The ambition for the house, even in Nehi of Arich, is still a fantastically infinite house. It's like a palace.
Right.
But the difference is that in general, the Indian of the difference between Chagas and Nehi is that in the Etzem Amidos, he cannot go outside of the Midah yet. You know, like when somebody's real angry,
Right.
the Mamish can't do nothing. He's like shaking with anger and he can't even talk. He can't even shout at the guy.
Right.
He can't even say you putz, you know?
Right.
He's so angry he can't even talk. He can't even say nothing. He has to calm down a little bit just to shoot the guy. Because when he's in the etzem of the anger, he can't do nothing. Because he's inside the midah itself. Whereas in the he is already the pilus of the midah, which the pilus of the midah means now he can punch the guy in the nose.
Right.
So like anger, like Chagas is like the anger, where he just feels the anger so much he can't even do nothing. And the he is the feeling to punch the guy in the nose, not the feeling that he's angry inside. But it's the pilus, what he wants to come out of it.
Right.
But in Arich, even that is infinite. Whereas in Zah, you say Zah, after the Bina, that's already Katnas V'yoseh. That's already like the house that he can afford, or the car that he can afford. Tzadik Katamar, Tzadik Katamar Yifrach Eretz Balvanin Yizgei, Shezeu B'chinat Yisayt Zah, Ke'eretz Balvanin Yizgei B'chinat Ein Sof. Shehu B'Yisayt Atikim Varech Antin. Lebanon is Lovan. You know, Lovan means the Kesser. V'ken Mash Nemer B'Shloimim V'Yidaber Mina Erez Asher Ba'Lebanon in Arich till the Ada Ezov, till the weed B'chinat Katnis Yisayt Zah B'Malchus Shenikra Kir, till Ada Ezov Shebakir. V'kiyadua B'Karbon Amen Yesh Me'Rabim V'Yirech L'Shma Gemat Yeratzin L'Shma HaGodol B'chinat Yisod B'Malchus Arich. You notice before he said Amen Yesh Me'Rabim V'Yirech, he's talking about the Machshava Kduma.
Right.
I don't know if you remember that. Now he's saying it's Yisod of Arich. Shiem Avoyrach B'Avah. In other words, the Netzach and Hoid, it should come from Netzach and Hoid into Avah and Zun. then this will bring from the side of Arich to come down into the Moichin and Midos to overpower the right and the left. And this is basically, this chapter ties in together with the next chapter. But the basic thing is that, in other words, what he's saying is there's three levels of Seichel. The Chabad Chagas and the He of Arich, and the real level that we're talking about is the Mazolis. Our type of Seichel of Hitbonenut, that's the thing from the Mazolis. And really it goes not only from Golta, but it goes even higher than that. The Mazolis really reach even higher than that. That really the Indian of Neuvlas goes really from the Pnimis of Tainov too. That's what makes the Neuvlas is really the Pnimis of Tainov that overpowers on the Rutzen. And then there's the Reyes, the Arich, that's called the Hitlapshus, because when it's an Indian of Reyes of Arich, it means that the Rutzen is malubash inside the Seichel and is driving it. And you're not dealing with a Seichel, you're dealing with a Rutzen.
Right.
And you have to be careful when you're dealing with a person like that, because you should know that you're not dealing with a Seichel, you're dealing with a Rutzen. And then the normal thing is where the light comes down through Nehi. And in the next chapter, it'll explain about the three different kind of brains that come out of that. The three different type of things in Chochmah and Bina itself, which come out of these three levels of where it comes down, from whether it comes directly from the Koach HaMaskal itself, whether it comes from the Zroyas of Arich. Remember he said that the Zroyas of Arich are receiving also from Chochmas Tamaz. So it really comes, it always comes from the Koach HaMaskal. But whether it comes from Koach HaMaskal itself, and it's not really just from the Koach HaMaskal itself, it's really from higher than Koach HaMaskal, or whether it's coming from the Pnimius Hamidos of Arich, or whether it's coming from the Chitzonius Amidus of Arich, which that's the normal thing, and over there it doesn't overpower the Seichel. But the Seichel basically receives light from there and then can process it. But the higher type, where it comes from Chochmas Tima, it means that it's a whole different type of thinking. That's why he says much, much higher from the other ones. And there is not only that it doesn't overpower the Seichel, but it's a whole different Seichel.
Right.
It's not just a Seichel. It means that this guy is actually thinking with the Koach HaMaskal itself and higher. And the rest of the stuff is just conduits.
Right.
Over here, you're also not dealing with a Seichel. You're dealing with Pnimius Seichel directly.
Right.
That's why, like you see that in the Chachamim, in the big Chachamim and Goenim, from the Jewish Chachamim and Goenim, it's like Shalom Be'erech with the Chachamim of the Goyim.
Right.
They're totally like a different level. It's not just like a big philosopher. They're like totally like, you see, it's a godly Chachma.
Right.
They know things that a person shouldn't be able to know when their wisdom seems to be infinite. You're dealing here with an infinite wisdom. It's not just with a big wisdom. It's an infinite wisdom.
Right.
And you see that this type of thing you don't get by the Goyim at all. You can't have that. Because this level is only when it's connected to the Havaya Kol Racham V'Chanan. It's godliness.
Right.